This is way past what I signed up for.
What exactly do you think that was?
I found a man who needed help, so I helped him.
Oh yeah? That simple?
Do you really want to get into this in front of him?
He's out.
Maybe he's faking.
He's not.
Okay, that right there, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, I find a guy in a dumpster who turns out to be some kind of blind vigilante who can do all this really weird shit. Like smell cologne through walls and sense whether someone's unconscious or faking it. Slap on top of that, he can take an unbelievable amount of punishment without one damn complaint.
Well, that's part's the Catholicism.
So what, I'm supposed to take it on faith? I'm on the right side of this?
You don't carry a masked man bleeding to death into your apartment on faith. You knew which side you're on the moment you found me.
Daredevil.
Yeah.
You're taking on this, I guess, massive comic book character.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're a fan of comic books, but do you feel a lot of pressure with that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's funny. When I got the role, I wasn't a huge, I wasn't a Daredevil fan. I hadn't read any of the comics or seen the film or anything. And then, so I was able to kind of start the process with a kind of blissful ignorance of how important it is to so many people. And then as you know, and so then as the show, you know, ran on and we went to Comic-Con and you know, images were released and people started blogging and all that kind of stuff. It became, you know, I became acutely aware of what a massive deal it is, and the nerves began.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you didn't. I mean, say Ben Affleck had played him before. I think that was a good while ago now.
2003.
But did you kind of want to take anything from how he played it, or did you even speak to Ben Affleck about the role?
No. I watched the film and I actually thought he did a really good job. I think the film maybe suffered because tonally it was a little incongruent with the performances. It was a bit confused in that regard.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Yeah.
No, and you know what I did. I think actually in some ways, me not being a fan of the comics was quite helpful because I was able to come at it with fresh eyes and start reading the different series and take the show. My first thing I read was the two first episodes written by Drew Goddard. So then my awareness of Daredevil. And then when I started reading the comics, I was able to take the issues and the series and the different illustrators and writers that I felt most suited what they were trying to do there in the show. So that was kind of quite helpful.
Yeah. And the show, again, I wouldn't be a massive comic book fan, but I really enjoyed the first episode of this. So I guess there is sort of a universal appeal there, which is great.
Oh yeah, cool. Well, one of the things that we talk about is it's not a superhero show. It's a crime show with superhero elements. You know.
And it's kind of, I guess, because you're with Netflix, there is sort of more leg room with the violence in it.
100%, yeah.
So I did find that watching it, I was like, oh, and it wasn't like I didn't think it was too much, but
It
wasn't. It was actually most of it was kick ass. It was great.
Yeah.
But how did you feel about that, or even doing those scenes?
I think Daredevil I think having got very familiar with the comic books, I think Daredevil suits that. I think it suits a slightly mature audience. I think the themes need to be slightly more adult.
Yeah.
And you know, you have to have the blood, the gory and the gritty kind of, you know.
Yeah.
It makes it more interesting, I think. You know?
Yeah.
It's, you know, my mum and dad is so funny because they're like, oh, we're so excited about Daredevil. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, it's quite violent. Not sure.
And did you have to do a lot of training for that? Was there a lot of stuntmen used, or?
So I had one stunt guy who's absolutely brilliant, and I trained with him. So you know, the way that I did as much as I was allowed to do.
Yeah,
which in certain scenes was a lot, in other scenes it wasn't as much.
Yeah.
But as the show progressed, as we got into it, and I was kind of getting better and stuff, I was able to do more and more, and that was really thrilling.
Did you get any on-set injuries that probably shouldn't have happened, maybe?
No, not really. I mean, I got some kind of some wear and tear. Like I really go for it.
Yeah.
And my body isn't used to that.
Yeah.
So you know, I hurt my shoulder a couple of times, and my knees are still a bit kind of painful. I'm worried about that actually. I need to have a look at that. But,
and I was going to say, like, I guess most little boys grow up kind of wanting to be a superhero.
Yeah.
So I almost feel pretty good now, I mean, amongst your friends and family, that you actually get to say that you are a superhero.
Yeah, it's funny.
Or do your friends even care?
No, what's interesting, some of my friends have, it turns out, are massive Daredevil fans.
Oh, right.
And comic book fans. And I would never have known because they just talk within their own community.
Yeah.
And then when I was offered the job, they were like, "Oh my god!" and they gave me some advice, or they gave me their favorite issues and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
has to be.
You know, I mean, up until the point where I got cast, I was like, whatever, I don't know. I don't want to be a superhero. And then as soon as I was like, oh, brilliant, you know, and you know the costume and all the whole thing. It does even though I wasn't necessarily a big reader of comic books, I'd seen all the films, and I do remember one thing. I remember being slightly, I don't know how old I was, but not very old, 7 or 8 or something. And I remembered if I got sweaty hands, I could push against the frame of a door and climb, like in the doorway, and climb up it. And I remember thinking, I might actually be Spider-Man. I'm not sure.
I actually tried that myself when I was a kid.
It turns out I wasn't. I didn't know. It was touch and go for a while.
Yeah. Well, listen, congratulations. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of it.
We understand you're in some trouble. We may be able to help.
Can you tell us what happened? Why don't we start with what we know then? You were found in your apartment with one Daniel Fisher,
who appears to be the victim of a homicide, and currently you're the only suspect, Miss Page.
Who the hell are you guys?
I'm Matt. He's Foggy.
Who sent you?
No one says.
So what? You're just a couple of good Samaritans? Today's just my lucky day?
I bribed the desk sergeant with a box of cigars for his mom.
Our practice is relatively young, Miss Page, and we are aggressively pursuing new clientele. You gotta stop giving Beth cigars.
She likes to smoke, man. It's a free country.
How long have you been practicing law?
What time is it?
It's 12:22 a.m.
About 7 hours.